So we're going to do a replay of the U.S. Civil War due to the fact that they have come up with a third edition rules that really significantly changes the game, particularly for the 1861 scenario and the campaign game, because the setup, as you see here, for 1861 is completely different in this third edition. And we'll go through the changes here. Some of the big changes are here, particularly in Missouri. Instead of having Price with 2 SPs in Springfield, he is no longer there. He is over here with 1, and then there's 1 SP in Fayetteville. These are now taken as Confederate. On the Union side, Lyon is supposed to be in Rolla with 2 SPs, and Fremont with 2 SPs with entrenches. He has no entrenches now, and he's got 1 SP there. And the 1 SP is supposed to be in Jefferson City from old ones, but that's not changed. Down here at Cairo is now a fort instead of entrenchments, and only 2 SPs instead of 3. Then we have up in Springfield, it's got a guy, Everson, that's still the same. And then down here for the Confederates is kind of very interesting. Island number 10 usually is here. That is no longer done. That is a fort down here with naval guns. And then Union City's got 2 SPs. And if you notice here, Fort Donelson and Henry are no longer set up there. And yeah, Nashville's got theirs. Polk, he was changed to, yeah, he's got no entrenchments, loss of 1 unit. And then we have the other big changes. Everybody else down here in the south here is not changed, but the other big change is up here in West Virginia and the east. Basically, Fort Monroe here has got an extra SP. Norfolk, it's still 1. Yeah, Beauregard is entrenched at Manassas with 4. McDowell is at Alexandria with 4 and entrenched. There is only 4 in DC, and then you have 2 in Baltimore and 1 in Harrisburg, which is the new setup, instead of Annapolis and Philadelphia and 9 in DC. Then we have Harpers Ferry with no entrenchments, but also here at, yeah, that's Cumberland, Maryland. That is Confederate controlled. And then McClellan, instead of starting up in Pittsburgh, has already taken most of West Virginia. And we have Confederates got forces here in West Virginia, which is different than before. Yeah, and also there's a unit here there that wasn't there before. And overall in the setup, he removed 1 SP on both sides. And the other big changes in the rules here is he's increased, well, he's got reduced the number of tide battles, and the blockade table has been modified to be, move over here. So this is the new one where you only have maintenance only increases in 1864 and 65. It used to start in 62 and 63. And once I played a game and I rolled really bad a lot early in the game, and my maintenance was really high through the rest of the game. So that's a big change. We'll have to see how the tide battles, because a lot of fighting was always tied. They increased the rail movement, which is interesting, by 2 movement points. Cautious generals are not cautious in the north, which is interesting. It helps a little bit. Cavalry generals are not delayed in there. The picket line DRM is interesting. Momentum, that's interesting, but not. So then we have, but the big ones is multiple minor stuff, but it's a lot of stuff in total. But the big one is the forced march has gotten rid of. So that one was big, because one of the key things for the Confederates to do is to have your cavalry guys basically along here that could jump over in the winter and take a city and gain some victory points. And with your, if you had a card to do a force march, you could be at least 9 movement points away from your target and force the Union player to defend. And without that, that kind of goes away, that little tactic and defense. And then also that prevents Lee, Sherman, Grant, and Jackson used to be able to run out at 7 movement points and do some damage, and that tactics are gone. And I think, what else? There was another one that was kind of big in a way. No, I think that was one that I was thinking, and the setup really changes things tactically. Oh, the winter reinforcements. The Confederate player doesn't lose anything if he goes negative on the winter turn, which really hurt a few games that I played sometimes. So that goes away, and then the attrition modifiers for fall and spring are removed. So that tactically can be interesting with cavalry going out and doing nefarious things. And yeah, I think that's it. So with these new rules, I'm going to see how different the play has changed compared to last time. So it's going to be an interesting playthrough, and we shall see how things changed. So this is the end of turn 1 for the USAR with the new rules. So the action cycle was differential was 2, 3, 2. And so most of the activity was done here in Missouri with Leon basically not even going to get in battle, and he's going to get replaced. Probably going to have to figure out how best optimal to deal with him, because over here in West Virginia, McClellan was able to take out the lone unit and kind of move on to Charleston. And the Confederates over here did not much. They moved up the SP from here, and they moved SPs and take control of Springfield. Outside of that, and the ironclad got fixed in Norfolk, so that's going to help there. Oh, and I made an error. The setup is Confederates are down 3 SPs from the last rule set, and Union is only down 1 SP difference from. So that kind of put a damper on things. And with the low die differential, things kind of made it slower. Patterson dug in up there. Johnson is up there. Everybody's kind of staring at each other in the east here. We'll see if any other activity happens in turn 2. But yeah, the kind of spend the first turn kind of figuring out what to set up, and yeah, because McDowell gets demoted and McClellan gets promoted, so we'll see how that changes now. So I didn't even do Bull Run on the first day, first turn. So this is the end of turn 2, which we had 3 dice differential of 3, 2, and 1 for this turn. So the Union pushed out Price, and then we got a fort in Little Rock, a couple of forts here on the Mississippi. Fort Donelson is up, moving around the officers. Kind of stagnant on the river, kind of cleaned up West Virginia. And kind of stalemate over here on the east. And then down we have Florida. Florida here. Now, kind of set up for later, and then also kind of came down here to Ship Island. And then we also have a fort right here in Galveston, which will be very helpful. And so that's actually pretty much done with, well, we got one more turn of 1861, but it basically kind of slowed it down even more for like Missouri to do stuff. But we shall see how this turn, there's no reinforcements, and it is those 3 SPs that you don't get to start with kind of did. I noticed I'm like, I don't have enough guys to do certain things, like covering Florida and Texas well, North Carolina, just to keep, but I actually was able to get a guy in Paratus Inlet, so that works. But yeah. So on to the final turn of 1861. There is some serious differences in this scenario particularly, and then it's going to totally kind of really be a weird setup for 1862. So this is the end of 1861. According to the rules, for this scenario, the Union won. They had 4 VPs, and then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the blockade running areas, and the Confederates have gone into Kentucky, invaded it, so that's now Union, but nothing in Missouri, so Union wins this, but for the campaign they should be at 6, they are at 4, so a little behind. So with the new rules here, you have more, the Union player's got to spend more his actions to clear out Missouri if he wants to. Take Virginia, West Virginia, to stay on track, but due to this scenario, due to the rolls for 1861, the dice differential has been kind of low. Nothing higher than a 3 once. Mostly 2s and a 1. So yeah, the activities were kind of tight because McDowell pushing through here had to force the Confederates to play it instead of doing a good invasion in Kentucky at the moment. So a little problematic. Stalemate in the east, of course. So we'll see how 1862 turns out with this slightly, because they also have more forts here. With the cards were kind of good for the Confederates, so they built forts there, which is good. And here. So the fences are going up. But with the lower SPs, it was kind of tight, like trying to cover things down here was a bit problematic compared to and covering up here into Kentucky. So I had to waste actions to build Fort Donelson and Henry here that you didn't have to do previously. So that's interesting how that plays out. Union player kind of screwed up officers here on the west. Probably would have been better to have somebody to be with Buell here. So onward.